Hey MVPs, Rico Knows here. Going to talk to you guys about a 2024 futures bet. It is TCU, right? We're going to talk about TCU's win total. So you see it here in the books. They have it at 7.5 wins. And what you'll notice about the 7.5 wins is it's a plus 122 for going over, and then it's really solidified on the under. You see that minus 150. So you'd have to probably bet 1, 2, 3 units on it to see a real return at minus 150. You could do one. You could do one. There's nothing saying you can't just make a 1-unit bet. That's on you, whatever you want to put on this bet. But I think this is a bet that needs to be made, okay? Let me just say that. So looking at TCU last year, I famously, excuse me, my throat is killing me. I famously predicted that Colorado would beat TCU. I knew that. And I knew TCU was the runner-up for the national title. None of that matters to me. I don't care about your past accolades. When I do my assessments, I look at rosters. I compare schemes, I compare players and talent, and I said Colorado's going to cover this 18-point spread, and I said they're even going to win the game. I'm not just picking the spread, and I got it right. Now, TCU, the reason I felt that way about TCU, they lost 8 draft picks. They had a new quarterback, they had a new scheme, they had a new everything. And more importantly, I just think that when you lose NFL caliber players and you don't replace them with really good ones, you're not going to be as good as you once were. That's how I felt, and I got it right. TCU runs a 3-3-5 defense, or at least they did last year, okay? They ran a 3-3-5 defense. They've changed it up a bit this year, and that's going to be very important when I talk about the depth chart and the players they're using. But just remember that, okay? So 3-3-5, it was a really base-oriented defense, and if you don't know what that means they sit in base. They don't change things. Like, it just looks that way. They don't mask their coverages or their scheme. They don't make it look like it's a 4-man front. You can just look at it, line up, and know what their responsibilities are. Now, they'll run a zone, they'll run a stunt, they'll run a blitz, they'll run a man, and you can very easily predict it and beat it. And that's exactly what happened. They got beat a lot because their defense was just too vanilla, if you will. And vanilla is never good. Not in a marriage, not in a sex life, not on the field. I'm just letting you know. Definitely not in ice cream. So Nichols, they go and play Nicholls State, or Nichols now. They blow them out. And then the next week they're playing Houston, and they absolutely demolish Houston. And that was a bad look for Houston. And at that point, I think Dana Holmgren was probably going to lose his job. They beat SMU, very impressive. And at this point, they're 3-1, and everybody thinking that one loss was a fluke, but it wasn't. Because they lose to West Virginia and they lose to Iowa State. They lose to these two teams that are very run-oriented and just punch you in the mouth. And then they beat the crap out of BYU. Get smashed by K-State, another run-oriented team that'll punch you in the mouth. 2 weeks to prepare for Texas Tech. It doesn't work out. They're emotionally exhausted, and they lose the next 2 games in very competitive fashion. And I want to tell you guys, when you lose like that against Texas Tech and Texas, it's a good thing. Moral victories don't matter in win totals, but it's still good for the team moving forward and believing in the coaching staff. You don't lose everybody. One significant change they had later in the season was this kid named Hoover started playing quarterback, and I'll show you him on the stats sheet. And Hoover got the reins, and he did really well. He did well in the sense that he got the offense to move a little bit. He started to stretch the field, and yes, he's a walking turnover. He's waiting. He's just a gunslinger, if you will. But he played so well that their other quarterback already transferred to North Texas, and they're just left with Hoover and believe in Hoover. But you see it. They lost to Texas and Texas Tech back-to-back. Very competitive games. Blow out Baylor. Fire everybody at Baylor. And then they go on the road, and they lose to Oklahoma. Oklahoma's playing great. And they lose to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma puts up 69 points on that defense. If you put up 45 points and you don't win the game, no, let me rephrase. If you put up 45 points in a game and you still lose by 24 points, we need to fire the defensive coordinator immediately, okay? So that's TCU in a nutshell. Struggling on defense, found ways to score. Now, if you go look at their offense, Chandler Morris, like I said, transferred. He's gone. He went to North Texas. Chandler Morris is just injury prone. He is a good quarterback. I think he's probably better than Josh Hoover. but he doesn't have more potential than Josh Hoover. Josh Hoover has untapped potential. Like he hasn't really come to fruition. He hasn't really played a whole lot. So he's got years to get better. Chandler Morris, not so much. Right? We already know what he is and who he is. So you got a kid, but he's got to cut down on these interceptions. 9 interceptions is terrible, especially given he only played half the season. That means he was on pace for something horrific. Stop throwing the interceptions. Another reason he threw so many interceptions, if you watch the tape, they're just trying to play catch up. They're trailing in games, and they go out there to throw. And other teams are just holding on to the lead and running the ball. So it's pretty tough when you're trying to go out there and throw. Now, they had a star running back in Amani Bailey, 1,200-yard rusher. TCU always has good running backs. Amani Bailey's gone. And what they have left is Trey Sanders and Cam Cook. Trey Sanders, former 5-star, got in a car accident, used to be at Alabama, didn't quite make it at Alabama, wasn't really cut for that cloth. I remember when he wanted to go to Colorado, I perceived it as, I remember he wrote on Twitter and was like, yo, Unc, get me over to Colorado. And he was talking to Coach Prime. And I think Nick Saban did not vouch for this young man. I think Nick Saban did not call Colorado and say, sign this guy. I truly believe that, because if Nick Saban had vouched for him, I think Coach Prime would have signed him, but he didn't. And he ended up at TCU. Now, TCU also has Cam Cook here. Both of these guys averaged less than 4 yards a carry last year. But when you go and watch the film, Cam Cook is kind of shifty, man. He's slippery. I went back and watched his high school tape. It looks good. He looks like a slasher, if you will, a multi-cut runner. He's got a little bit of elusiveness to him. And they just got Jimmy Smith, the running backs coach from Arkansas, who's really good. Now, obviously, he can't do the carries for them, but he evaluates talent really well, and he always finds really good running backs. Arkansas had a loaded stable of running backs, and this is a former Cedar Grove head coach here in Georgia. And so he's got their – don't be surprised if TCU gets a pipeline to Georgia all of a sudden because of the running back position and the running backs coach. But the running back room isn't necessarily bare. It's just two guys that aren't home run threats, that aren't Amani Bailey threats. Like they're not this guy. You know what I'm saying? Trey Sanders is definitely a short yardage back. We'll get it done in the red zone. You can tell by his 6 touchdowns. But other than that, it doesn't really move me like that. Nobody else really matters. Why do so many people have carries? Let's talk about that. Why do they give so many people carries? They're running a bunch of end arounds. They're doing all kinds of shit. I'm talking about punters with carries, wide receivers with carries. How many wide receivers got a carry last year? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can we stop giving wide receivers carries on these end arounds? Get a different offensive scheme. Wide receivers. This is the strength of this team coming into this season. I would say Savion Williams is back. The team's leading receiver is back for another year. J.P. Richardson, don't call him an insurance salesman. Yes, he looks like one. This is a transfer from Oklahoma State. Before the season, I told you guys, that kid can play. Well, he went out there and he proved it. He can play his ass off. Jared Wiley just got drafted in the NFL. He's gone. No need to fear. They do have another NFL caliber tight end coming in, but that's a big loss when you lose somebody of that caliber. You see the other receivers here, Jalen Robinson, Warren Thompson. They don't really move me like that. I see them on the list. JoJo Earl, the former Alabama transfer. I'm going to say something that's just not cool, but I'm going to keep it real. TCU has consistently signed transfers that are just recruiting misses at the bigger schools. I don't care what school it is. The bigger schools have recruiting misses, and TCU will go and sign those guys. And everybody's convinced, oh, we just got so-and-so. He's really good. And it's not. They're just not that good, right? Jack Beck here. Is he from LSU? Yeah, he's from LSU. This is an LSU kid. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm just telling you that ever since his freshman year, we haven't seen what we're looking for here, and they still don't believe in him. Because they signed another tight end, right? And Dabney. So, I'll get to it, but it's not just Jack Beck. It's, a number of guys. JoJo Earl, the list goes on and on and on of them signing misses. And I will address it when I get to the depth chart, if you will. Nnamdi, man, he really took off, proved himself, went out there and led the team in tackles last year. He's coming back. He's a stud. Jamoy Hodge is gone. Shad Banks is still here, but I don't know if he's going to start. I don't know how it's going to work. I'm going to show you the depth chart, and we're going to be like, what the hell is going on? Because this guy, to me, really showed out for me. Like, when I watch the tape, Shad Banks is everywhere. Obviously, he's third on the team in tackles. This is a former 4-star kid. went to North Shore out of high school, went to Texas A&M, then transferred over, and I think he plays well. I don't understand it. He's it's funny. I'm going to show you another guy. I'll see it on the depth chart. But I'm going to show you another guy. Shad Banks in high school. Go back and watch his tape. He's a wide receiver, bro. He was a wide receiver. They're moving wide receivers to linebackers. Sign a bunch of wide receivers. You can never have enough. But now he doesn't look like a wide receiver. He's 6'1", 250, bro. He and I are very similar build, right? We're just yoked out. I like it. Shad Banks, shout out to him. Abe Kamara came through in the clutch. Josh Newton's gone. Damnick Williams hit the damn transfer portal. That's unfortunate. Went to Oklahoma. Bud Clark's a team leader. So this is a team captain. 2 years in a row now, Bud Clark has led TCU in interceptions. This year it was 3. I think the year before it was 5. Just a stud of a player. Caleb Fox is a stout dude inside. So is Paul. Avery Helm, the Florida transfer, actually came to play and played decent. Channing Canada, his brother is Chase Canada. I call him Zero. That's his nickname. He just signed with Illinois out of a JUCO. Channing Canada, same JUCO. Everybody's a JUCO guy, and they did well. Fontenot's gone. Timon Mitchell's still here. There's another guy. Another guy that was a miss in recruiting at Georgia, and he's on the team. Like, that, to me, is one of those things. Like, they're just signing guys who are missing. And it's fine. They're better than high school kids, I guess. Did I skip over Brooks, Marcel Brooks? Where is he at? Marcel Brooks ain't even on here. It's another recruiting miss. Look how many guys made tackles last year, bro. Look how many guys made tackles. Oh, there's Marcel Brooks. Yep, recruiting miss. And Marcel Brooks, he's another wide receiver. Wide receiver converted to linebacker, if I remember correctly. Yeah. Look how long he's been in college, bro. But this guy is another miss. LSU, there it is, 2019. I just remember when they're signing these guys, and it's no shade at them, because they got to just find a spot for them on the team. But it's bad. All right, so let's talk about them. You're looking at the team here. Wide receivers, like I told you, strength of this team. They have Savion Williams, the leading receiver, returning back for another year. They have J.P. Richardson, Oklahoma State transfer, complete stud, good little slot guy. And then you go and get a great Z wide receiver, Eric McAllister. I made videos on him last year. This was the leading receiver, the only receiver on Boise State last year. Eric McAllister is him. He's huge. And he's always open. So I like those 3. Yes, there's other receivers in the rotation, and they got some others. You see JoJo Earl down here. They got some other players in the transfer portal. These are the 3 that matter. Now, offensive line. When you see this offensive line and all this yellow, that should really scare you, because that means they just went out and got a bunch of transfers with no continuity, and they're trying to figure it out. That should frighten the hell out of you, right? Not here, man. What I look at here is this looks like a team that really spent some money on the offensive line. I don't know how else to put it. They went out and spent some real money on the offensive line, and they got some players. So Bless Harris is coming over from Florida State. He started a number of games last year at Florida State. And imagine, you're starting at Florida State. You got to be pretty good. They were undefeated for the majority of the season. Bless Harris can play football. Former 4-star guy. I like him, and he's coming over for his final year. Then you got left guard Cade Bennett. Cade Bennett is him. Best lineman in the Mountain West. Was the star lineman at San Diego State, and I think he's just a complete stud. I like him a lot. Good to see him over here. Him and Bless Harris, these are really good linemen to be getting at TCU. James Brockermeyer, his twin brother, they both went to Alabama initially. Then they transferred back home to Texas, the state of Texas, I should say. His brother already medically retired. And here you have Brockermeyer at center. He did play some center at Alabama. Obviously, Alabama had center problems, and he played a lot of special teams. But it feels like he's not bad. It feels like a decent player. It feels like a good player, decent player. Carson Bruno, where's Carson coming over from? That's on me. La Tech? Yeah, I remember. Hey, I said it before I clicked on it. I just remembered as I was clicking on it. So La Tech, he started 2 years at La Tech. Probably the best offensive lineman at La Tech, so it doesn't hurt to get him. What I'm going to say is these upgrades feel a little bit better than Colorado's, for sure. I'm talking about guys that are coming to the team, and they're like the best offensive lineman from their previous school, especially Cade Bennett. especially Carson Bruno. And then Mike Nichols has started before. He's still young, or he was young when he was starting, and he's still not as dependable as I would want but he's right tackle. He's right tackle. It's not left tackle, right? Bless Harris he went out there and got a guy. But all in all, if you ask me, their offensive line, I think it's pretty decent. In the Big 12, they Frankensteined it a little bit. They got themselves a little bit of an offensive line. It's not bad. Tight end, they're absolutely loaded. Drake Dabney is a stud. He's one of the best tight ends in America. I'd say definitely top 20. And so he's coming in from Baylor, was the leading receiver over there. He's a pretty good player. There's Josh Hoover, and I told you, Josh Hoover, as a redshirt freshman last year, just had a lot of mistakes, but he's going to get better. I said Josh Hoover sucks, if you don't get the reference. Okay, Hoover sucks, vacuum, depression. Okay, anyways, if you ever wanted to know who was the president during the Depression, the Great Depression, it was Hoover, because it continued to suck. Then we have Ken Sills here, the backup quarterback. He's coming over from Vandy. He used to be the starter at Vandy. He has starting experience. That is a good insurance piece to have. It is not a problem to have Ken Sills there. And if Josh Hoover goes out there and keeps turning it over, Ken Sills will be the starting quarterback at some point. He's actually dependable. He's played a lot of football in the SEC. That's not a bad player, I promise. Cam Cook, like I said, kind of shifty. I like him. Played some as a true freshman, has not redshirted. They wanted to get him in the rotation. Congratulations. Shout out to Trey Sanders, the goal line back, and the shifty back. We'll see what's up. Paul Owele, just a young kid, kind of in the rotation, not bad. What's cool is he's ahead of the replacements they brought in to put pressure on him. He outplayed him, so I'm cool with that. I like it a lot. I'm impressed with that. Tyron Mitchell, the Georgia kid, he's huge. It's over 300 pounds. Cool, man. Doesn't move me like that, but somebody to plug it up the middle. Caleb Fox, same thing. Then we get to Devin Dill. Devin Dill's a transfer from Tulane. I watched the tape, and I was really underwhelmed. I didn't understand how Devin Dill's starting. I don't mean to be rude. I did not see that coming. I thought Cooper McDonald would be starting. Cooper McDonald is coming over from San Diego State, and I just thought he would be starting. I thought he was better. I assessed it on tape, and they got him third string. Now, this isn't official. This is not an official depth chart. This is just a website. One guy who's not going to be seeing the field is Marcel Brooks. Don't ever get this twisted. He's just undersized. He's little, former wide receiver. He feels like a recruiting miss, and he just kind of contributes on special teams. I'm not sold on him like that. So, for me, congrats to Devin Dill, but I thought Cooper McDonald would be in the starting lineup. Then you have Caleb Elam's first team all Pac-12. Second team all Pac-12. My bad. 4-star, second team all Pac-12. Complete stud. KJ I think he goes by, KJ is the real deal. And to see him put Shad Banks on the bench is insane. You see Shad Banks right here. This is a guy that was just third on the team in tackles. And they're telling me, you're third on the team in tackles and you're not starting anymore because we just brought in a complete stud. That's impressive. That's really good depth. If the guy that's backing you up, that's nuts. That's absolutely insane. Now, the guy who led the team in tackles is Nnamdi here. Shout out to Nnamdi, showing out, playing great. But his backup, Johnny Hodges, Johnny Hodges is all right, bro. This is a transfer from Navy, and he only played 4 games last year, but he's not bad, I promise you. And then Terrence Cooks, his dad played in the NFL. Terrence Cook Sr. Just another big school miss. Don't mean to be rude, but Texas. He initially went to Texas. It didn't work out, and now he's here. I hope he eventually gets in the rotation and plays a little bit, but it doesn't look good. Hey, Jatarvis Broughton is one of the starting defensive backs corners from Utah. So he just transferred in. This kid can play. There's no doubt about it. He's a starter. So it's a Utah starting corner. He's coming over here. He's a hired gun. He's a mercenary, if you will. Lamarian James, stud. Lamarian James is a transfer from ODU. Dude, look at this. I don't Google anything. Let's check. I think it's ODU. And he started a bunch of games at ODU. Yep, Old Dominion. Get at me, bro. ODU lost their entire secondary, by the way. They had two of their safeties transfer to Indiana, and then they have this young man here, one of their best corners, transfer in, and he's just in the rotation. Now they play with 5 defensive backs. He'll get on the field, but that's great. They wanted to have competition. They wanted to get players. Dude, they got one, okay? So this is a stud. Another guy that's coming over is Richard Toney here. Richard Toney played at Nevada last year, and he was good. I think he's just one of those hidden gems that he's been starting at Nevada for a while, and then you get him to the biggest level, and you can believe in him. Cam Smith will be backing people up. That's fine. There's the Channing Canada. He can play. And then all the starters, these dudes really showed out. Abe Kamara surprises me that he's a starter. And no shade. It just surprises me that he's ahead of some of these other guys who aren't playing nickel. Bud Clark's the team leader, team captain, and Avery Helms, a transfer from Florida, who actually played dividends for showing up. Okay. So now how do I feel about this team? Collectively, I want to tell you guys, like, I was not dissecting this roster all offseason. I didn't do that until the last couple of days now, or at least today and parts of yesterday and today. And when I did it, I kind of, and this is just some me peeling back the curtain a little bit, like the Wizard of Oz. Every single team in America, I kind of know. I know them. I know them all. But when we really deep dive, I go, oh, yeah, I remember that guy. Oh, yeah, my bad. Hey, so tonight I just did an FPI rankings for ESPN where a guy asked me, hey, what do you think about TCU? And I was like, they're okay. Nothing to write home about. They don't feel that good. But now that I look at them, I'm like, man, they rebuilt their offensive line. They have an NFL tight end. They have great wide receivers. Young running back. Defensive line doesn't excite me too much. Stud linebackers and a lot of depth in the secondary. And that's because in the transfer portal, look how many transfers they brought in. This is their transfers, right? Just transfers coming in. And just look right here at these position groups. I'll scroll roll so you guys can see it. They brought in Dominic Johnson. This is a backup running back. He was 3rd or 4th string at Arkansas. He's just coming with his running backs coach. That's fine. But here's Austin Jordan. He's not even on the depth chart, but there's Austin Jordan. They signed him in May. They needed more help. They went and got another defensive lineman. They got another. That's your center, right? They got the corner. He's listed. And this was all back before spring football. But look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 defensive backs. 7 players in the secondary. Is what they got in the transfer portal. 7, bro. 1 from Tulsa, final year of eligibility. 1 from Utah, complete stud. Nevada, Memphis, never signed anyone from Memphis's defense. ODU, New Mexico State, JUCO transfer really. Austin Peay, didn't go to UTEP, and Texas. I'm trying to tell you guys, TCU is trying to address something. So I'm really impressed with the roster and their makeup, but when I look at their schedule, there's just no room for them to beat certain teams. I'm going to give you guys an example. Kansas. They're not better than Kansas. Nope. I like Kansas better than TCU. But there's Kansas, and especially on the road. I like Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma State, and Arizona. Better than TCU. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 losses right there. That's 4 losses I believe are going to occur no matter what. And that's just going chalk. Let's go back to the win-loss total. 4 losses puts them at 8 wins. That means they got to win every single other game. And let me tell you the coin flips they have. When you look at teams like Stanford on the road, UCF, at SMU, Texas Tech, at Baylor. Those are all coin flips to me. At Cincinnati. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games where it's like, yo, I don't know if they're winning this. And all they got to do is lose one of those and the under hits. I think TCU wins 7 games. Max. And that puts them on the under at minus 150. And I feel pretty good about it, if you will. So if you come over here on the chart, I've got TCU. It's a lock on the under. I have them at 7 wins. and it's a 3-unit bet. 3-unit bet. Whatever your unit size is, that's on you. But whatever your bet size is, do it 3 times, and you will see TCU flourish. Make sure you guys go watch all the other videos and learn about all the teams. It'll help prepare you for the season because we have a whole lot of matchups we have to look at every single week. I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to come back to my offense and defensive rankings or ratings, if you will. I need you guys to understand I did do TCU's offense. I'm still working on their defense. Where did I put it? Here it is. So just for official offensive rankings here, I gave them a 77 according to my formula, and a 77 puts TCU's offense tied with Baylor, right? Just ahead of Arizona State, but behind teams like Arkansas, App State. On offense, they're behind Clemson and Colorado, but they look pretty decent, man. They look pretty decent. So we'll see what Josh Hoover does. If he cuts down on the interceptions, they can win more games, but I'm not quite there yet. And they don't have a 1,200-yard rusher coming back. If you think they're going to get it, well, then go for it. But I'm on the under, and it's a lock. Your friends don't know, but Rico knows. Thank you guys for being MVPs.